Straight
You know the saying, knowing people in high places? I know made people, connected people, as Carlito said. I'm going to tell you today why you need to know people in low places. Not high places, but the actual opposite, low places. Now, of course, as I said, all of you are familiar with the concept of knowing people in high places. Whether you actually know any of them is a different story, but all of you know what I mean when I say that phrase. People who have status, people who can get high level things done for you because of who they know, who knows them rather, their knowledge, their experience, their access to resources. Everybody's familiar with the phrase, again, even if you may not use it that often. Now, I talked about these people in the previous series where I talked about make sure you know people in which episode was that? Know people in each one of these spaces. That was episode number 3287. I did a 3-part series on it. So what I'm going to do today is talk about why you should know people who are in other places that may not be so high up, so to speak, but may be necessary for other aspects of life, because not every aspect of life is going to be a high up aspect depending on how you're living, who you are, and who you're dealing with. Let's get into it. Point number one. Topic, once again, is knowing people in low places. Number one, not everything in life is shiny, and sometimes you need some dirty work done. Is this true? In my favorite book, Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, he talks about using the cat's paw, is how he describes it. The cat's paw is basically if you need to get some dirty work done, depending on who you are and your position in your environment, you may not want to do the dirty work yourself. You don't want to get your hands dirty doing it, but the dirty work does need to be done. So go find someone who is capable of and willing to do the dirty work on your behalf and let them get it done. So it still gets done. It just doesn't get done by you. And there are times in life when there is some dirty work that needs to be done that, again, maybe you can't do it, but it needs to be handled. How do you get this handled? When I was 18 or 19 years of age, I needed a new inspection sticker on my car because in the state of Pennsylvania, my hometown is Philadelphia, PA. State of Pennsylvania, you had to have these 2 stickers on the bottom left corner of your windshield that were for inspections. There was a state inspection, which is basically like the inspection of the car. Maybe they're both state inspections, but one of them is basically inspection of the readiness for your car to actually be on the road, and it's like the body inspection. And then there was another inspection that was the emissions test, which is basically they would put some type of pipe that would measure what type of fumes were coming out of your exhaust pipe, and it would measure if your car was functioning in such a way that was at least at the standards of the state of Pennsylvania in terms of what kind of stuff could be coming out of your exhaust pipe. In other words, so you weren't polluting the environment too much. And you had to have both of these inspections, I believe it was every single year, and you would get an updated sticker. And if you didn't have an updated sticker, a cop could pull you over because, I mean, it's right there on the windshield. So if a cop notices you don't have the right sticker, you can get pulled over, you can get your car towed, you can get a citation, and you might not be allowed to drive again until you get those stickers fixed. The problem that I had, 18, 19 years of age, is the car that I was driving was this beat up hand-me-down car that was not going to pass a state inspection. But my state inspection time was coming up where I needed to get the new inspection stickers, and I wasn't going to be able to pass the inspection with the car being in the state that it was in. I would either need to get the car seriously repaired or I need to get a new car, both of which I cannot afford and were not going to happen. And another thing about these state inspections in the state of Pennsylvania is this is really just a racket for the state to just get money out of you, because you got to go and pay for these things every year to get them, and you got to pay the shop for doing it. You got to pay for the stickers. It's basically a racket by the state of Pennsylvania. One of the reasons why I moved out. I'm joking. That's not the reason why I moved out, but I'm glad I did, because now in the state of Florida, we don't have to deal with that shit. But anyway, I knew I wasn't going to get an official sticker from the state based on the current state at that time of the car that I was driving. But I knew somebody who could get access to some counterfeit stickers. I don't know how they know this. I don't know where they got it from. I don't even know who the person I knew who knew somebody. I don't know where they got it from. So don't ask. All right, state of Pennsylvania, if you're listening, don't call me. I don't know. And the person who did it for me is actually dead, by the way. So anyway, and I'm not joking. That person is dead. So this person, I went and saw this person who I did know. They had the counterfeit stickers, and they even put them on the car for me. And they got it taken care of. I never got caught with the fake stickers for as long as I continued to drive that vehicle. Now, I'm telling you that to tell you this. A person in a high place could not have gotten that done for me, because the thing that I needed to get done was some shady background, back alley street shit that a person in a high place wouldn't want anything to do with. And if they did, they would have did the same thing that I did. They would have known somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody, so they could be completely removed from the situation, but still get it done, which is exactly what I mean. This is why sometimes you got to know people in low places. You need to know people who can do things or are willing to do things that you ain't willing to do. I'll give you another example. This one is more tongue in cheek, but it is an example that a graphic example that you'll understand. I was reading this book of this guy once. He said he went to a restaurant or something, or a public bathroom, somewhere he went, and he had his phone with him, and he was looking at his phone while he was pissing in the toilet, and somehow, some way, he dropped his phone in the fucking toilet. There's a public bathroom, and there's shit in there, there's piss in there from other people, not his, and he dropped his phone in there, but he wanted his phone back. He didn't want to reach his hand down in there. So he goes outside and he sees some vagrants, some homeless men outside of this public bathroom, and he says to them, "Hey, I got $20 for any one of you who will get my phone out of the toilet." And one of the homeless men said, "I'll do it." So they walk over to the toilet, and the guy who has the money, he shows him the phone inside the toilet, and the homeless man looks at him and says, "Where's the money?" And the guy pulls out the $20 and shows it to him. The homeless man, he said the homeless man reached into it like it was a glistening stream, like a glistening river stream, like the pictures on the side of the water bottle. He said he reached into it like it was that and pulled the phone out like it was nothing. He gave the guy the $20. The whole point is, do you know a person in a high place who would have reached their hand into that toilet? I would not have reached my hand into that toilet, but there are people who would. Now, in that story, that little anecdote that I gave you, he didn't actually know that guy, but he found a person who was willing to do some low shit in exchange for $20. Now, everybody understand what I'm saying here? Another example, now I'm thinking about it. Now I said $20, and you saw the movie Friday. There was a crackhead in the neighborhood in the movie Friday, this guy named Ezell. And he offered at one point in the movie, this actor by the name of Chris Tucker, he played Smokey in the movie. At one point, Smokey was seen in the movie taking a number 2 outside of somebody's house. Like, that's what he was doing. He was taking a number 2 in the bushes outside of someone's house. And the neighborhood crackhead, Ezell, walked by and saw what Smokey was doing. And he said to Smokey, "Listen, when you're done, I will clean up all of that poop for $20. The point is... The point is that sometimes you got to know people in low places to get some dirty work done. And sometimes it is literally dirty work. So sometimes you need access to the person who knows people in these low places, like quote unquote, the streets, to take care of problems for you. Sometimes you need things done at a high level by somebody with a college degree, a business suit, in a corner office. And sometimes those same people, because of their professional status, will never get involved with the thing that you need. But understand, not all of life is at that level. This can be more or less true, yet still true overall based on the type of life you live and the type of people with whom you are dealing. Moving on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is you need to know people in low places. Number 2, there is no downside to more people knowing you and having a positive opinion of you, regardless of who those people are. Now, there can be a downside to where you are spending your time and with whom you're spending most of your most valuable resource associating with. Now, you probably don't want to spend most of your time around people who are in low places, but there is no downside to having people who are in low places knowing you, liking you, trusting you, and having a positive opinion of you, because you never know when you might need to deal with those people. You may need to use them for something. You may need them to handle something on your behalf or at some level. While I'm thinking of this, I'll give you an example. My son, by the time you hear this, is probably 3 years of age. And I don't know if he's going to be into sports at all, but let's just say my son decides to play basketball. If he decides to play basketball, I can't have him he can learn the basics and the fundamentals and the stuff you do, like the drills, etc., from his father, because I know basketball at an expert professional level. At the same time, basketball is a game where you actually play against other people. Basketball is not just you by yourself. He's going to have to play against other players, and he is not going to learn the type of mental toughness that you develop as a basketball player by playing basketball in fucking downtown Miami or in Brickell or even Miami Beach. You're not going to learn it there, because the type of players who I grew up playing against, where I developed my toughness on the court and also that translated to off the court, I got that from where I come from. And I come from what most of you would call the hood. I'm not from the streets, but I am from the hood. My son is not from the hood. He was born in fucking Brickell. He would not understand this inherently because he's not from that neighborhood. So if and when he decides to start playing basketball, I am going to take him around to other areas of Miami, and I know where they are, and I know people who are from those areas where he will play basketball with some kids who are not from where he was born. And that's where he would have to learn his toughness. He would have to learn how to toughen up playing against those players, because those are the players who would kick his ass on the court, at least, just on the court. And he's going to have to learn how to toughen up, because even if he's more talented than them, and this is a very important thing when you're playing a sport like basketball, it actually happens in every sport. When you're a very talented player and your opponents know that they can't beat you in talent, especially those who come from, let's say, low places, players who come from the hood. I dealt with this when I was playing myself. I was playing against a player who could tell early in the game that they weren't going to beat me on skill. They weren't going to beat me on talent, but they still wanted to win because they had pride. They're going to try to find a way to beat you another way. They're going to try to, okay, let's just make the game rougher. Let's just muck up the game. Let's junk up the game. Let's make this, let's try to make it personal. Let me see if I can get this guy mad at me. Let me just get more physical. Let me just start fouling really hard. Anything they can do to throw you off your game, because they know that if they just play you skill for skill, they can't win. So they're going to try to beat you in another way simply because they have no other options. And this is something that you need to be ready to deal with, because in life, this is going to happen. This is going to happen to all of you, even if you don't play a sport. Some of you have already had this occur in your life. And if you don't play a sport, it happens off the court, it happens in the office, it happens in the boardrooms, it happens in the corporate places, it happens in academia, it happens everywhere. Those of you who have kids and you are living in a situation that environmentally that's a lot better than the environment that you came from, you're going to have to deal with this with your kids. And again, they don't have to play a sport for this to matter. Another example of this is Kobe Bryant, basketball player all of you have heard of. Kobe had a father who played professional basketball. And when Kobe was growing up, his father was not playing in the NBA anymore, but he was playing overseas in Italy. His father finished out his career playing in Italy. And Kobe picked up his love for basketball, obviously from seeing daddy at work every day playing basketball. And he started to develop his skills, and he played a little bit of soccer and this and that. And he was getting really good at basketball just by playing and practicing on his own in Italy. Then when Kobe's dad, his name was Joe Bryant, when he retired from basketball, the family moved back to right outside of Philadelphia, which is where Joe had played basketball. He had played for the Philadelphia 76ers for some time before going overseas. And when Kobe came back to the United States, his first summer, he played in this league that I've mentioned in the past. It's called the Sonny Hill League. That's Sonny. That's a person. His name is Sonny Hill. And it was and still is the most respected league in the tri-state area. That's Southern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware. If you're from that area, you played in the Sonny Hill League. Everybody who was somebody played in that league if you were a youth all the way up through high school years. So Kobe plays in that league his first summer back in the United States after coming from Italy. Now, Kobe, he thinks he's somebody. He's been watching his dad play. He's been developing his skills, practicing on his own over in Italy. And he comes and plays in the Sonny Hill League in Philadelphia. And this is according to Kobe himself. That whole summer, he played in the whole league and he scored 0 points. He did not score not 1 point the entire summer playing in the Sonny Hill League. Now, key thing here that you should notice about Kobe Bryant is that he didn't quit basketball. He came back the next summer. All right, that's one thing right there that separated him from 80% of people who play basketball. 80% of them would have just quit basketball. I didn't score any points, I might as well not play basketball. Oh, there goes your career. Kobe came back the next summer. He got better. And he kept getting better and better and better. And then Kobe became Kobe. I guarantee you one reason Kobe didn't score any points that summer was because he was playing against kids who were not from fucking Italy. They didn't grow up playing soccer. They grew up playing basketball. And even though Kobe may have had some abilities, I'm sure Kobe knew how to make a basket. But when he got on the court with those other kids, they presented to him a challenge that he never came across wandering the streets of Italy playing basketball with a bunch of kids who care more about soccer. And Kobe toughened himself up playing against those kids. And that's one of the reasons that Kobe became Kobe. Because if Kobe had done all that playing over in Italy and then tried to come over to the USA out of high school to try to go to the NBA, it wouldn't have worked. He had to develop some toughness playing against some players who could actually stop him in his talents, whatever he had when he was 13 years of age. And he had to develop that into some real ability. So the whole point here is, while you may not be the type of person who a lot of people, you may not be the type of person who deal with a lot of people who play at this lower level that I'm talking about based on your current situation. That doesn't mean that these people cannot be useful assets to you just in volume alone, if nothing else. Your favorite athletes and entertainers, for example, couldn't sustain a career if they only had fans who were at their level of status and accomplishment. Like, what if all Beyonce's fans had to be at Beyonce's level of accomplishment? Well, Beyonce could do her concerts in a living room because she ain't got that many fans who were at that level. But because she has a whole bunch of fans who are just average, everyday people who look up to, idolize, and live vicariously through her, she can fill a stadium. I'm not necessarily calling these people friends, but I bet those people look at Beyonce like a friend more than she looks at them like friends. I would say just in general. And this is how a lot of your favorite entertainers and athletes sustain careers. So they got a whole bunch of people who will never be at their level, who look up to them and live vicariously through them. This is how it works, especially in the black community. This is a huge thing. I talked about this a few episodes ago. And these people, the Beyoncés and the LeBron Jameses of the world, need a bunch of fans who will never get to their level in anything. They have no ambition of getting to their level, but simply admire watching Beyonce or LeBron being up at that level because they feel like they're at the level because they're a fan of that person. There's an entire business model behind this industry, by the way. And the masses of consumers who live vicariously through these folks, there's a whole industry behind this. I talked about this in episode 3359, 3 socially accepted black men. And then the next episode, 3360, why white America does not prop up athletes and entertainers. There's a reason. As an entertainer, you may not consider these people, again, your friends. You could probably get some of them to do some things for you that you wouldn't want to do or may not be able to do yourself. I have no idea how Beyonce operates, but Beyonce has a whole fan base that they gave themselves a name. They call themselves the Beehive, Beyhive, the Beehive. And their whole thing is defending Beyonce's honor and defending her name and going and attacking anyone who dares question or challenge or say anything negative about Beyonce on the internet. Now the Beehive is still pretty strong. Beehive has been going strong for a good 15 or so years now. Very strong fan base that she has. And I said that I gave the disclaimer to say, I don't know if Beyonce is actually telling people in the Beehive what to do or giving them the signal to go do things. But if you go say something negative about Beyonce on the internet, you're going to find out who the Beehive is if you don't believe that they exist. Moving on to point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is knowing people in low places. Number 3, the more average people than there are high achievers. Just in life in general, there are more average people than there are everything else. So sometimes it's a good idea to have the masses on your side. And by the way, the masses are constructed of average people. When I say the masses, I'm talking about a bunch of average people. That's who makes up the masses. It's a good idea to have the masses on your side sometimes. For example, political elections. If you're going to win a political election at any level, you're trying to be a city councilman, you're trying to be mayor, you want to be governor, you want to become part of the Senate or House of Representatives, you want to be president, you better get the masses on your side. Otherwise, you can't win. All right? You win elections by getting the masses to follow you, not a few elite high achievers to follow you. There are not enough elite high achievers around for you to win an election by only talking to them. You got to talk to everybody. So you see somebody win a presidential election is because they got the masses on their side. And when you get the masses to agree to your position and follow your movement, now you have a chance to win. And you must communicate with them at the level that they're at a level that they can understand. Because again, you can't only target people who play at the top of the pyramid. Ain't enough of them. All right, the ones who win are influencing the people at the bottom of the pyramid. They may throw some bones to the people at the top, but they got to influence the people at the bottom because that's how you create a movement. A mass movement is created by getting the masses to follow you, not by only getting a few people to follow you. If you fail to do this, you can never win a political office. Name your favorite politician. Name your least favorite politician. All right, they all did it because the way you know them is because they won an election. That's how you know who they are. Again, depending on what you're offering or selling, folks. Average people might be the bulk of your customer or subscriber base. Who's the bulk of Walmart's customers? A bunch of average people. And Walmart speaks directly to what those average people want. Everyday low prices. All right, here's how you can get some stuff while spending as little money as possible. That's what the masses want. And Walmart is $1 billion company because they have catered to what that audience of people wants. There's an audience of people who are not looking to advance, get better, achieve. They have no ambition. They're not trying to get better. They don't want to hear about discipline. They don't want to hear about any of this work on your game shit that I'm talking about. They just want to be entertained and distracted. And guess what are huge industries in America? The entertainment industry, comedy, TV shows, movies, sports, social media, reality TV. Why are these industries so big? Why is there so much money being made in these places? Because there are masses of people who will pay time, money, attention, energy, and focus to be distracted by these things. And there's money to be made if you can do it, if you can pull it off. All right, this is why you see so many people aiming to get into these industries because it doesn't require a lot of substance, but there's a high ROI if you can get in. How many entertainers, Athletes is a different thing because you do have to actually be able to play your sport, and there is a measuring stick in sports. So I'm going to put athletes in this box. But entertainers, you're talking about rappers, TV people, influencers, socialites. Many of these people have no substance whatsoever. There's nothing in between their ears that makes them substantial. Yet they can make a lot of money simply because they got the masses of people to follow behind them. So, and this is why you have so many people trying to get into that space. Not everybody gets in, but a lot of people try because it doesn't require much effort. So if you can get that trade-off without much effort, well, I can understand why people try. Not my cup of tea, but I understand why it is for some people. Because if you have no substance, well, then you don't have the options that someone like myself or yourself would have. But people who have no substance, they kind of either you can make it doing that and maybe you can become an influencer, or you're just going to be an average person the rest of your life. You pretty much only have two options. Now, if you have substance, you got a lot more options. I would suggest you go the substance route, but I ain't talking to everybody. Okay. So these average people, they are the ones who are the bulk of your customer or subscriber base. All right. Walmart knows. They're the ones clicking on your links, watching your social media content. All right, Kim Kardashian knows. They are the ones defending you in conversations that you don't even know are happening. All right, Beyonce knows that. Having the attention and support of the masses can be leveraged into opportunities in higher places simply because a lot of entities want to reach the masses of people. So if you already have the ear of the masses, then you might as well just get the person who already has, if you want the ear of the masses, you can go and find someone who already has them and just work through them. So if I wanted to sell let's say I came out with a beauty cream and I wanted to sell it, I might call up one of the Kardashian girls and pay them for an influencer campaign. Why? Because they already got the audience. Why do I got to do the work of trying to build up 10 million followers? Well, they already got it. Let me just call one of them. How much? So this can be leveraged into opportunities in other ways. So lots of people want access to an audience of the masses because lots of people sell to the masses because masses do have buying power. And they will spend on things that distract and take them away from anything that would, again, anything that sounds like building of substance. They're not interested in that. But if you offer them something that will distract and entertain them, they'll take it. So just depends on what kind of business you want to be in. Okay. That audience has attention to spend, they got money to spend, and they have energy to spend. So you can sell to them. So there is value in this. You just got to understand how to use it. Let's recap today's class, which is knowing people in low places. You know about knowing people in high places. What about people in low places? Number one, not everything in life is shiny, and sometimes you need some dirty work done. You might need somebody to reach into a public toilet with a bunch of piss and shit from other people in it and grab your phone because you dropped it in the toilet because you were drunk. All right, you might need that every now and then. If you don't know any low place people, then how are you going to get that phone out? Number two, there's no downside to more people knowing you and having a positive opinion of you, regardless of who they are. Now, there is a downside to you giving too much time to these people, but there's no downside to actually having them know who you are and having a positive opinion of you. Now, just be careful how much you're associating with these folks, but keeping them around is fine. Now, Beyonce ain't spending that much time hanging around these average people who are her fans, but she appreciates having them as fans because they buy her fucking albums. Number three, there are more average people than there are high achievers. Sometimes it's a good idea to have the masses on your side. You want to win a political election, you better get the masses on your side. You want to sell 1 million albums, you better get the masses on your side. You want to get voting to the All-Star game when you play in the NFL or Major League Baseball or basketball, you better have the masses on your side. Otherwise, you won't get any votes. So there are times to use the masses. You want to go viral on the internet, you got to get the masses of people to pay attention to something that you said or something that you did. If you're only talking to the elite people, you're talking to a small audience of people. They have a lot of power, but there are times when the masses are actually more valuable. And you just need to think about what they are and if and where at all, if at all, any aspects of your life where this applies. All this said, folks, Work on Your Game University. What we do here at Work on Your Game is we take discipline and we systematically turn it into dominance. If that sounds like what you want, just what I just said right there, without explaining it at all, if that sounds like what you want, if I'm putting out the bat signal that makes sense to you, turning discipline into dominance through a systematized process, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Let's get to work. Work on your game. Dre all day.